Hello and welcome to RaceX Academy, the online platform where you can learn everything about mechanics for motorcycles and cars. I'm Dave, your instructor and guide for this channel. In this video, I'm going to show you what tools are needed to change brake pads and rotors on your vehicle and how to use them correctly. Changing brake pads and rotors is a common and essential maintenance task that you should do regularly to keep your brakes working properly and safely. If you notice that your brake pads are worn out, squealing or grinding, or that your rotors are warped or scored, it's time to replace them and get better braking performance. There are different types of brake pads and rotors for different vehicles and applications, but the basic tools you need to change them are mostly the same. Here is a list of the tools you will need for this job. A jack and jack stands or a hydraulic lift to raise the vehicle off the ground. A lug wrench to remove the wheels. A caliper piston tool to compress the caliper piston. A C-clamp to secure the piston. A socket set and ratchet to remove the caliper bolts. A wrench set for any bolts or nuts that need to be loosened. Brake caliper lube to lubricate the caliper and guide pins. Brake cleaner to clean the brake components. Anti-seize compound to prevent corrosion. Rust penetrant for any rusted bolts. Shop rags or towels to clean up any debris or brake fluid. You can find all these tools at your local auto parts store or online. Before you start changing your brake pads and rotors, make sure you have enough new brake pads and rotors for your vehicle and that they match the specifications of your brake system. You can check your owner's manual or consult with a professional for this information. Now that you have all the tools and materials ready, let's get started with changing your brake pads and rotors. I'm going to show you how to do it step by step, but remember that this is a general guide and some details may vary depending on your vehicle model and brake system. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions and safety precautions when working on your brakes. Step 1. Raise the vehicle and remove the wheels. Use a jack and jack stands or a hydraulic lift to raise the vehicle off the ground. Make sure it is stable and secure before working on it. Use a lug wrench to loosen and remove the lug nuts from the wheels. Then remove the wheels from the vehicle and set them aside. Step 2. Remove the caliper bolts. Locate the brake caliper on each wheel. It is a metal device that clamps onto the rotor and holds the brake pads. Use a socket set and ratchet to remove the two bolts that hold the caliper in place. You may need to use a wrench or a rust penetrant for any stubborn bolts. Step 3. Pivot or remove the caliper. Depending on your vehicle, you may be able to pivot the caliper up or down without disconnecting it from the brake hose, or you may need to remove it completely. If you can pivot it, use a C-clamp or a piece of wood to secure it in place away from the rotor. If you need to remove it, use a wrench to loosen and disconnect the brake hose from the caliper. Be careful not to damage or twist the hose. Plug the hose with a rubber cap or tape to prevent brake fluid leakage. Step 4. Slide out the old brake pads. With the caliper out of the way, you can easily slide out the old brake pads from their slots on either side of the rotor. You may need to pry them out with a screwdriver if they are stuck. Step 5. Compress the caliper piston. Before you can install new brake pads, you need to compress the caliper piston back into its bore. The piston is a metal cylinder that pushes against the brake pad when you apply the brakes. Use a caliper piston tool or an old brake pad and a C-clamp to push the piston back into its bore. Make sure you do this slowly and evenly to avoid damaging the piston or causing brake fluid overflow. Step 6. Replace the rotor if needed. If your rotor is warped or scored, you need to replace it with a new one. To do this, use a socket set and ratchet to remove any screws or bolts that hold the rotor in place on the wheel hub. Then pull off the old rotor and discard it. Clean the wheel hub with a wire brush and apply some anti-seize compound on it. Then install the new rotor on the wheel hub and secure it with the screws or bolts. Step 7. Install the new brake pads. Apply some brake caliper lube on the back of the new brake pads and on the guide pins. This will reduce noise and friction and help the pads slide smoothly. Then slide the new brake pads into their slots on either side of the rotor. Make sure they are aligned correctly and firmly seated. Step 8. Reinstall or pivot the caliper. If you removed the caliper completely, reconnect it to the brake hose and tighten the fitting with a wrench. Then place the caliper over the brake pads and rotor and align it with the mounting bracket. If you pivoted the caliper, release it from the C-clamp or wood and lower it over the brake pads and rotor. Make sure it fits snugly and securely. Step 9. Reinstall the caliper bolts. Apply some thread locking compound on the caliper bolts to prevent them from loosening due to vibration. Then reinstall them on the caliper and tighten them with a socket set and ratchet. You may need to use a torque wrench to tighten them to the manufacturer's specifications. Step 10. Repeat on other wheels. Repeat steps 2 to 9 on each wheel until you have replaced all the brake pads and rotors that need changing. Remember to work on one wheel at a time and follow the proper sequence for your vehicle. Step 11. Reinstall the wheels and lower the vehicle. Reinstall the wheels on the vehicle and tighten the lug nuts with a lug wrench. Then lower the vehicle off the jack stands or hydraulic lift and remove them. Step 12. Check and bleed the brake system. Check the brake fluid level in the master cylinder reservoir and top it off if needed with fresh fluid. Then check for any leaks or air bubbles in the brake system by bleeding them with one of the methods I showed you in my previous video. You can find the link to that video on the screen right now or in the description below. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned how to change brake pads and rotors on your vehicle. If you did, please hit the like button and leave a comment below. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to RaceX Academy and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video. You can also check out our website racexd.com, where you can find a variety of courses on mechanics for motorcycles and cars. Whether you want to fix your own vehicle, start a career as a mechanic, or just improve your skills and knowledge, we have the right course for you. Visit racexd.com today and enroll in one of our courses. You won't regret it. Thank you for watching RaceX Academy. I'm Dave, your instructor and guide. See you in the next video. Bye for now.